Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. Please subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in the description. So, imagine your boss pulling you into their office and telling you that you are absolutely forbidden from working on the biggest, most high-profile project of your entire career.
Oh, man.
Right. Not because you aren't talented enough, not because you didn't earn it, but simply because you've already logged too many hours at the office and human resources has literally locked your key card.
That is exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah, that is exactly the scenario playing out for some of the best rugby players in France as they prep for this massive July test series against the All Blacks down in New Zealand.
It is, it's a genuinely unprecedented situation. And, I mean, if you are listening to this, you really want to pay attention to what is happening here because this is not just your standard pre-tour squad announcement, right?
Yeah.
Where we just read off a list of who's getting on the plane and who is staying home.
Right.
We are witnessing a real-time, highly strategic clash between player welfare, intense domestic club loyalty, and international prestige. It really reveals the shifting tectonic plates of modern professional rugby.
It really does.
And frankly, it shows how the French national team is quietly reshaping the future of the sport behind the scenes.
Yeah, we are diving deep into the tension between the French club system, so the top 14 and the international stage. But, rather than looking at this through that traditional, somewhat negative lens of oh, look at all these missing star players, we are going to embrace the methods behind the madness.
Absolutely. There is a real strategic brilliance to the squad rotation Fabien Galthié is using right now.
Yeah, and to understand it, we kind of have to start with the spark that ignited this whole debate, which is the Bordeaux paradox. So Union Bordeaux Bègles, or UBB, getting knocked out of the top 14 early.
Right, yeah. Their season came to a crashing halt in a really dramatic finish against ASM Clermont. UBB was edged out 34-31, finishing 8th overall in the standings.
Because they completely missed the knockouts.
Exactly. And it all came down to a late drop goal from Harry Plummer, who, funnily enough, is a one-cap all-black, which is quite the poetic twist considering who France is preparing to play.
You literally can't script that kind of irony. But here's the paradox, right? Logically, as a rugby fan, you sit there and think, okay, Bordeaux's season is officially over. That's great news for the national team because it frees up their absolute megastars.
You'd think so.
Right. You have Louis Bielle-Biarrey, who is the back-to-back Six Nations player of the championship, and you've got Matthieu Jalibert, who is just an absolute maestro at fly half. You would assume their bags are already packed for Wellington.
On paper, I mean, that makes complete sense. Their domestic commitments are finished, the international window is right there, so you deploy your heavy artillery.
Exactly.
But that assumption ignores the rigid, highly data-driven reality of modern French rugby. Neither of them are going to New Zealand.
Which is wild.
It is. And this isn't an oversight or a punishment. It is the result of Fabien Galthié implementing a remarkably strict player welfare policy. He has drawn an absolute line in the sand, a hard cap of 25 matches and 2,000 minutes of playing time for the season.
And this is where that timesheet analogy really kicks in. Because you look at the raw data in the sources, Bielle-Biarrey played 31 matches this campaign.
Wow.
Yeah, that equates to 2,295 minutes of professional rugby, and Jalibert played 27 matches, hitting 1,950 minutes.
So Jalibert exceeded the match limit, and Bielle-Biarrey completely shattered both the match and the minute limits.
Totally shattered them. But let's dig into the why of that 2,000-minute mark. Because, to a casual fan, it can sound like just a random number a coach pulled out of a hat.
Oh, it is far from random.
Yeah.
You have to understand the physiological reality of the sport today. Rugby is not merely a contact sport anymore. It is a collision sport.
Oh, 100%.
At the elite level, you are subjected to car crash levels of force dozens of times a match. And sports science data increasingly shows that after you cross that 2,000-minute threshold of high-impact rugby, the body's ability to recover just plummets.
You just can't bounce back.
Right. The micro tears in the muscle tissue simply stop repairing adequately between matches. The connective tissue in your joints becomes compromised. When players push past that 38-hour mark of actual in-game collisions, the risk of catastrophic joint or soft tissue injury spikes exponentially.
So it's not just that they are, tired, it's that their physical infrastructure is fundamentally weakened.
Precisely. For an explosive winger like Bielle-Biarrey, who relies entirely on fast-twitch muscle fibers and sudden changes of direction,
Right.
or a heavily targeted fly half like Jalibert, who takes late hits after releasing the ball, playing another 80 minutes against the All Blacks, is basically playing Russian roulette with their ligaments.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
By enforcing this strict limit, Galthié is prioritizing the long-term physical health and the career longevity of his players over short-term international glory.
And what's really remarkable is that the players seem to be buying into it.
Hmm.
The sources note that BLBR is actively choosing to take the summer off to recover.
Which is huge for a young player.
Exactly. He isn't fighting the timesheet. He understands the biology. But, this strict adherence to the math creates an obvious vacuum.
It does.
If the megastars are sidelined by their own playing time, who fills that void? Before we answer that, if you're enjoying this breakdown, make sure to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in the description. Okay, so who gets the call-up?
Well, that is the beauty of this system. It turns a limitation into a powerful developmental tool. It forces opportunities for the broader squad.
Okay, give me an example.
Take Maxime Lucu, the 33-year-old club captain for Bordeaux. He is getting on that plane to New Zealand. And the mechanics of why he gets to go are really fascinating.
It's because he actually got hurt earlier in the year, right?
Yes. Lucu suffered injuries during the season that kept him off the pitch. So because he was sidelined, he only logged 22 matches and 1,569 minutes.
So while his teammates were grinding themselves into dust, he was involuntarily resting.
Exactly. Now, he is mathematically eligible, he's fresh, and he's fully healed. He missed out on crucial club time, but the system rewards his rehabilitation with a ticket to face the Haka.
That's a great silver lining.
It is. It's also creating space for younger foundational players. Like Yor Moifana, the young center, has a very strong chance of making the squad to play the All Blacks and then moving on to face the Wallabies in Japan later in the window.
So without the established veterans monopolizing the minutes, he gets thrust into a central leadership role.
Gaining invaluable high-pressure experience. Exactly.
Now, I follow the logic there. You sit the exhausted stars, you reward the rehabbed veterans, and you blood the young talent. But I have to push back hard on one detail from the sources.
Okay, let's hear it.
Jefferson Poirot. He is 33 years old. He has 30 test caps. But he retired from international rugby 4 years ago in 2020.
He did.
And now there are reports he held talks with Galthié and might be coming out of retirement for this tour.
Hold on. We're praising a calculated long-term development strategy, but then pulling a 33-year-old out of a 4-year international retirement.
I know how it sounds.
I mean, the game has sped up massively since 2020. Can he really handle the pace of a modern All Blacks test? Or is this just desperation masquerading as strategy because the minutes limit depleted the roster?
It is a totally valid question, but you have to separate the mechanics of different positions on a rugby pitch.
Okay.
If we were talking about a winger or a fullback who had been out of the international game for 4 years, you would be absolutely right. The pace would completely overwhelm them. But Jefferson Poirot is a loose head prop. The front row is governed by entirely different physical laws.
Because it's less about open field sprinting and more about the scrum?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think of the front row like the foundation of a skyscraper in an earthquake zone. Oh, I like that analogy.
Thanks. When the ground shakes,
Right.
when two massive forward packs collide, you do not want the latest, shiniest experimental materials down there. You want the heavy, settled concrete that has already survived 3 earthquakes.
Right.
The dark arts of the scrum, the binding, the management of thousands of pounds of pressure through the spine and neck cannot be fast-tracked. It literally takes a decade to build the skeletal and muscular conditioning to survive an elite scrum.
So 21-year-old prop might have all the athletic potential in the world, but they just get folded in half by a veteran all-black pack.
They would be dismantled. And if you look at France's current depth chart, Cyril Bale has unfortunately seen a bit of a decline recently, and there is a noticeable lack of tested depth behind Jean-Baptiste Gros.
So Poirot fills that gap.
Yes. He has rediscovered incredible dominant form this season with Bordeaux. Bringing back a player who intimately understands the immense, suffocating pressure of a test match scrum and dropping him into a squad full of energetic, younger players provides a vital anchor. It's a highly specific tactical recall by Galthié to stabilize the set piece.
Okay, framing it as the foundational concrete makes complete sense. You need that immovable object up front so the young guys can operate out wide.
Exactly.
But this individual math, the 2,000 minutes, the rotational tactics, only applies to players whose club season is actually over. What happens to the players who are still actively competing?
Yeah.
Because this is where the math turns into a logistical nightmare, right? And it creates a massive systemic clash between French club rugby and the international stage.
It's a structural tension that is entirely unique to France. You have to understand that the top 14 is arguably the most demanding, wealthiest, and longest club competition in the world.
That's a crime.
And the end of their knockout stages overlaps directly with the beginning of the international summer window.
Which brings us to the Toulouse nightmare scenario. The sources point out that this French squad could be weakened drastically further if Toulouse reaches the top 14 final.
Oh, absolutely. Galthié usually draws the core of his national squad from Toulouse.
Right, so if they are playing in the domestic final, France potentially loses Antoine Dupont, Romain Netamac, Anthony Gelange, François Cross, Emmanuel Mefou, Thibaut Flem. I mean, you are basically reading the spine of a World Cup winning team there.
It is an entire starting pack and your world-class halfback pairing, just completely unavailable.
And historically, this exact scheduling conflict has caused immense friction.
Didn't that happen last year?
Yes. Last year, France lost 3-0 to New Zealand on tour precisely because they had to send a severely understrength side due to these overlapping club commitments.
But wait, didn't the policy change? The sources note that the French Federation and the LNR, the governing body of the club leagues, actually came to an agreement to give Galthié more freedom.
They did, but there's a massive, incredibly specific caveat.
Oh, of course there is. The new agreement allows Galthié to pick whoever he wants, regardless of club schedule. But that freedom only applies to the later matches in July against the Wallabies in Japan.
Great.
Yeah, it explicitly does not apply to the opening Wellington clash against the All Blacks.
Yeah.
For that specific marquee match, his hands are still tied by the old rules in the top 14 schedule.
Wow. So for the biggest, most prestigious match of the entire tour, he has to leave his absolute best players at home.
Pretty much.
And this is exactly what has caused such a fiery reaction from the Southern Hemisphere, specifically from New Zealand.
Oh, the reaction has been blistering. Justin Marshall, the legendary All Black scrum half, went on the record and was absolutely furious.
I saw that.
He looked at the projected French squad and read out the statistics. An average age of 25, an average of 9.3 caps per player, 49% of the players being entirely uncapped.
Which is pretty crazy for a Tier 1 nation.
Yeah, he called it a development team. He labeled it complete BS and stated that sending a squad like that entirely disrespects the international window.
To understand Marshall's fury, we really need to look at the cultural clash here, don't we? Because it's not just about scheduling, it's about what rugby means in these two different hemispheres.
It is a profound cultural divide.
Yeah.
For a New Zealander like Marshall, the international arena is the absolute pinnacle of the sport. The All Blacks jersey is sacred above all else, and club rugby exists primarily to serve the national team.
Right.
Furthermore, New Zealand rugby relies heavily on the prestige and the resulting broadcast revenue and gate receipts of these massive inbound tours to survive financially.
While in France, it's the exact opposite.
Exactly. In France, the club is king. The top 14 is a €100 million industry with deep generational localized loyalty. It predates professional international rugby by decades.
So true.
To a French club president who's paying a player a massive salary, the idea of pulling them from a top 14 final to go play a friendly in Wellington is just absurd.
Yep.
So when a powerhouse like France arrives in New Zealand, without Dupont, without Netamac, without Bielle-Biarrey, the New Zealand public and pundits perceive it as an insult to the prestige of the All Blacks.
I completely understand Marshall's frustration when you look at the economics and the pride involved, but I want to reframe those statistics entirely.
Okay.
Marshall is looking at an average age of 25 and a 49% uncapped roster as a massive negative. But think about the psychological impact of this tour. What if this so-called development team is actually a hidden superpower?
How so?
Well, think about how you forge an elite team. What better way to build unshakable, battle-hardened depth for the next World Cup cycle than by taking a group of hungry 25-year-old rookies, throwing them on a plane, and dropping them into the ultimate crucible in Wellington against a fully loaded All Blacks squad?
That's a really good point.
There is a rich history in rugby of battered secondary squads going on horrific, terrifying tours, bonding through the sheer trauma of it, and emerging as core leaders for the next decade. If these young French players can survive 80 minutes in the Wellington wind against the All Blacks, they can survive literally anything a World Cup throws at them.
That is an excellent synthesis of the long game here. You are validating the All Blacks' desire for a heavyweight bout, but you are recognizing the sheer developmental genius of the French strategy.
Yeah.
Let's look at the reality of modern international rugby. The teams that win World Cups, like South Africa recently, are the teams with unimaginable depth. The sport has become so physical that you need 3 world-class players in every single position.
And you don't build 3 layers of world-class depth by playing your top 15 guys into the ground until their knees give out.
Exactly. You build it by forcing the issue, by prioritizing player welfare, by adhering strictly to this 2,000-minute limit and navigating the top 14 complexities. France is forcing the development of their secondary and tertiary talent. They are exposing players to the most intense pressure imaginable very early in their careers. Yes, they might lose a test match in Wellington. They might take a beating on the scoreboard. But what they gain in long-term resilience, squad depth, and the longevity of their primary stars is immeasurable.
It fundamentally flips the script. It turns a perceived systemic weakness, this massive clash between club and country, into an institutional strength.
Exactly.
It's not about disrespecting the international window or the All Blacks. It's about respecting the very real physical limits of the human body and planning for a 4-year World Cup cycle, not just seeking a one-off victory on a Saturday in July.
It is a complete paradigm shift in how an international union manages its assets. And, it leaves you with a truly fascinating hypothetical to chew on.
Oh.
Imagine if every major rugby nation, New Zealand, South Africa, Ireland, England, universally adopted this strict 2,000-minute physiological rule for all their players.
Wow, that would change everything.
How would that violently reshape the global club calendar? And counterintuitively, would it actually make international test series more unpredictable and exciting? Because you would constantly have fresh, hungry, uncapped talent being rotated into the spotlight instead of the same exhausted veterans playing every single match.
That is such an incredible question to ponder. What do you think? Is France's strict minutes limit and their willingness to send a younger squad a masterstroke for the future of the game? Or does it genuinely take away from the magic of the test arena when the biggest stars aren't on the pitch? Let us know in the comments. We love reading your takes on this and seeing where you stand on the club versus country debate. Don't forget to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in the description. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.